We've listened to your feedback and you told us you wanted a great drive close to the city of Sydney, and that is exactly where we have brought you this week. The Royal National Park starts just south of Sydney, and it's the gateway to the south coast of New South Wales, as well as the amazing Seacliff Bridge that you can see over my shoulder. We've got a pretty special car for this drive as well, but in the meantime, let's have a look at some of the amazing scenery when you first enter the Royal National Park. The Royal National Park starts a stone's throw from the Sydney CBD and is a favourite among drivers, riders, cyclists, hikers and beachgoers from all around New South Wales. Whether you want to fire up a barbecue and enjoy a picnic, experience some of the best bushwalking on the East Coast, or get into some bird and whale watching, the Royal National Park is a special place to spend some time. Even if you're heading through for a drive as we did, don't rush. Take the time to stop, get out of the car and have a wander. This is an amazing ecosystem. Not far from Cronulla, the drive out of Sydney will take you about an hour, but it's also around an hour from the Wollongong CBD for those of you heading in from the south. More recently, the National Park has become a favourite with visitors looking to nail the perfect photo for their social media accounts, but it's always been high on the list for fans of 2 or 4 wheels. You'll be mixing it up with cyclists and motorcyclists for that very reason, so respect the speed limits and take care. The road through is one of the best roads in Sydney, and it's tremendous fun behind the wheel of any car, especially one like the Porsche 911 GTS. The Porsche 911 Carrera 4 GTS is a special car, and not just because it's a 911. More than that, the GTS could be the smartest pick in the legendary 911 range, and we certainly think so at Drive. And for this drive, we've got our hands on a manual. It doesn't get much better. Starting from $334,000 before on-road costs, the purity of a manual 911 is hard to top on any road, but especially one as engaging as the drive we're on today. The eye-catching yellow paint is a love it or hate it proposition, but any Porsche that isn't grey or black is a good thing in my books. Prefer an automatic? No problem. Porsche has one of the best in the business. If you're looking for advice from me, I won't be giving you any. Both manual and automatic are sensational, and to be honest with you, I can't choose. The engine is formidable as you'd expect of a 911. 353 kilowatts and 570 newton metres are impressive numbers, just like the mid 3-second run to 100 kilometres an hour and top speed of 309 kilometres an hour. The 3-litre flat 6-cylinder turbo engine is yet another Stuttgart masterpiece with the propensity to howl into the outer reaches of the rev range. A stunning soundtrack to accompany an epic sports car. It's hard to think of a better sports car if you pair all-wheel drive with Porsche's dynamic chassis control, features that make the average driver even more capable on any road in any conditions.
The run through the Royal National Park just out of Sydney is truly an iconic drive, whether you're doing it as a day trip or whether you're going to spend some more time on the road. We're going to make our way all the way down the south coast to Kiama, and we're going to check out some of the sites there, but this is a fantastic drive. It's easy to access and it's a fun road as well. You don't need to be going fast. The speed limit is more than indicative of what you can do to have fun when you're behind the wheel. A lot to see, a lot of places to stop and plenty of coffee shops to stop at along the way. And to spice things up a little bit on this drive, we're expecting a bit of weather to come in. It looks a bit foreboding up in the sky. There's a bit of rain up there as well, so we're going to have to keep our wits about us and drive to the conditions, but we will not let that dampen our spirits. Why did we choose a 911 for this drive? Well, it's a good question, and it's probably easier to say why didn't we choose a 911 for this drive. This is one of the most iconic sports cars of all time from any manufacturer, and while we've got a GTS specification here, which sits effectively in the middle of the 911 range, you can buy an entry-level 911, the most affordable 911 you can get, and it's still a 911. It's still going to be an iconic sports car that looks amazing and performs unbelievably well across any condition. When it comes to a road trip in a sports car, no matter how long that road trip might be, there really isn't a more practical, enjoyable sports car to drive than a Porsche 911.
Ocean pools might not be a unique part of the Australian coastline, but they certainly make up a very important part of the fabric of Australian beaches. There's 100 of them in New South Wales. They're pretty impressive pieces of real estate too. Have a look where this one is. And they're all in their own way dramatic. They go back to the convict days, and most importantly, they provide a safe place for you to swim where you're unlikely to get eaten by a shark. Because let's face it, out there's plenty of those guys going for a swim. And while I said before there are some that are dramatic, few of them would be as dramatic as this one right behind me, which is at the foot of the Seacliff Bridge. The Seacliff Bridge is one of the most picturesque reasons to visit this part of New South Wales, and driving over it is only one part of the attraction. It's well worth finding a park on either side and heading back over for a walk to take in the views and fully appreciate the way in which it hovers out over the ocean. It's a dramatic piece of road. Wondering why the bridge was built? Take a look over the edge, not while you're driving of course, at the remaining sections of the old road. It would have been a wild ride. 665 metres long, it's a highlight of the majestic Grand Pacific Drive. You've got 140 kilometres of coastal scenery to enjoy all the way down to Nowra. The bridge was opened in 2005, and the walk offers you the chance to get a glimpse at migrating whales if you're there at the right time of year. Iconic the world over, you'll also catch glimpses of the bridge on numerous TV advertisements.
Now the question, if you're going to buy a 911, or indeed if you're picking a 911 to take on a road trip like this one, is do you go manual or automatic? And I'll tell you why that's a problem. The Porsche manual gearbox is one of the best manuals you can buy for any money in any car. The Porsche automatic gearbox, PDK as they call it, is one of the best automatics you can buy for any money in any car. So choosing between the two of them is incredibly difficult. Is 7 speeds too many? Yes, probably. So this is a 7-speed manual, and to be honest, it'd probably be okay if it only had 6. So 7 may be one too many. However, the gear shift itself, the interaction between the driver and the car, is second to none. It doesn't get any better than that. However, if you do a lot of driving in town, if you don't get out into the country as much as we do now, you really can't go past the Porsche PDK.
My favourite beach on the south coast is this one right here, Austinmere. And one of the reasons I love it so much is this. You can park right here. The beach is directly opposite your car. There's plenty of space. It's rarely too busy. And over the back there's even an ocean pool. So if the kids don't want to swim out in the ocean, nice and safe for them. As well, across the road, coffee shops and restaurants for you to have some lunch. This is the perfect place for the family on a summer weekend.
Austinmere marks the perfect midpoint stop on our drive down the coast, and while it's my favourite in this part of the world, it's one of just many stunning beaches down here that you can visit. Every time we visit this part of the coast, new coffee shops and restaurants have opened up and there's something new to look at. Don't take my word for it though, visit Austinmere and the whole of the south coast yourself.
South coast of New South Wales, it's a little bit breezy today, it has to be said. It's almost blowing me away completely, but on a sunny summer's day, it is a fantastic part of the world. Now, somewhere you have to come and visit, whether you're driving a 911 like I am now or not, especially if you've got the kids in tow, is just over there beyond that fence line. That's right, it's the Kiama Blowhole. Speak to the locals, they'll tell you that's the only thing in town worth checking out. We're going to do that right now. We're actually going to spend the night in Kiama. We're going to have dinner here this evening, and then we've got something special in store for you tomorrow. Of course, I was joking about the blowhole being Kiama's biggest claim to fame. This is a beautiful beachside suburb with fantastic pubs, restaurants and cafes, and there's plenty for the kids to see and do if you want to make a weekend of it. The blowhole is a short stroll from the centre of town, and we've been told it's the biggest in the world, bringing in approximately 900,000 visitors each year. When the ocean is pumping, it's an impressive sight. While Indigenous locals obviously knew about the blowhole for a long time before, it was first seen by white settlers when George Bass anchored his whaleboat in the sheltered bay, now known as Kiama Harbour, in December 1797.
Something Porsche has been doing with the 911 for decades now is something that has seemingly eluded manufacturers of other sports cars, and that is they've made a vehicle that really is Jekyll and Hyde. So the 911 can be driven the way I'm driving this now, on a B road in the country, potholed, coarse chip bitumen, it's bumpy, it's rough. However, and I've driven this GTS on a racetrack when we attended the launch of the vehicle, you can drive this car flat out on a racetrack, whether it's the manual or the auto, and it's absolutely mind-boggling what it's capable of at speed. So the Porsche 911 is the perfect dual-purpose sports car. You can take it to track days, or you can take it on a weekend away or a longer road trip, and it just eats both of them up. And when you open the exhaust, how good does this sound? We told you yesterday when we stopped at Kiama that we had a treat in store for you today, and this is it. Where else do you get to park a Porsche 911, but forget that for a second, underneath a Qantas 747? This is a pretty special experience. If you've driven down here on the south coast, you would have passed the Haas facility, which is the Historical Airline Restoration Society. And this is an amazing facility. First of all, it's a working airport, so you can probably hear helicopters and planes in the background because they are coming and going all through the day. But this is a restoration society that is designed to get these old planes up and running. Now, the 747 behind me doesn't fly anymore, but a lot of the planes that are on display here do. And I tell you what, I can't think of anywhere else where you can sit in the cockpit of a 747 and the cockpit of an F-111 fighter jet in the same place. This is pretty exciting. Let's check it out. So Dave, obviously this, the 747, is the big ticket item. It's the thing everybody sees. It's what you see from the road. But, you know, sticking my nose into that hangar there's some amazing machinery in there. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to see if you come to Haas.
Well, if you come to Haas, you'll see a huge variety of aeroplanes that have been significant to Australian history, and we try and get old aeroplanes and get them airworthy again. We have a variety of different aeroplanes. C-47s fly, Caribous that flew in Vietnam fly. We have a flying tracker, a number 844. We've got our F-111 bomber in there, which you can actually sit in the pilot seat. We've got the last flying super constellation in the world. We also have a P3 Orion, which actually was used on the search for MH370.
I've noticed when we speak to pilots, you guys talk about these planes the way we do about our cars, you know.
Yeah, and there's a real passion. You've got to love flying. I mean, it was a job, but we also had the passion for flying the jets around the world, to go to many different ports in all sorts of weather and give our customers the best ride possible and get people safely to all their destinations.
All right, Dave. Thanks for having us, mate. Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here, and I cannot recommend highly enough that you get here, not just to sit on a 747, but the Haas facility here is amazing. Get down here, bring the kids down here and check it out. There's so much to see. Now, as miserable as this might seem, I've got a bit of advice for you. Don't let bad weather dampen your trip, but you do need to drive to the conditions. So let's first talk about animals. Just yesterday, not far from here, we had to stop in the middle of the road and move a young echidna off the road, which I'll tell you what, if you don't have a thick pair of leather gloves, is not fun, I can assure you, but there's a lot of wildlife, wallabies, kangaroos, wombats and echidnas, so keep an eye out. Slow down. These roads can be treacherous when they're dry, let alone when it's rainy or foggy, as it has been for us this morning. But the message that we've got for you is don't let the average weather dampen your trip. We might be in for a few more months of this throughout the summer period. You might not have much choice, but you should still get out, explore, see the countryside, but make sure you plan ahead, drive to the road conditions and stay safe.
I've been spinning out the time, couple women by my side, I got sinning on my mind, was sipping on red wine.
Now, some of you might be wondering, why did they pick a 911 for this drive, while others are thinking that's the perfect car for this drive. But let me tell you why the 911 is such an amazing vehicle. Yes, it's got a back seat, but forget that that's a back seat for people, because there really isn't a lot of room there. But what there is room for is your luggage if you're taking a lot of it, if there's two of you and you're going away for more than a weekend. So you've got storage in the back seat, you've got storage in the boot at the front of the vehicle, or the frunk as some people call it. But it's the comfort level and the practicality of this vehicle that is most impressive. We've been driving through some awful weather on this trip, and everything is as easy as if you were driving a medium sedan or a small SUV. It's that comfortable, it's that practical, and as good as it is, as sharp and performance focused as it is, it's incredibly comfortable, incredibly capable, and incredibly practical.
Well, I'm not too sure who Murphy is, but as Murphy would have it, we've gotten to the end of our drive and it's stopped raining, but at least it means we can stand out here and not get drowned. What a drive we've had though, and what an epic car we have been driving. The Porsche 911, it's an iconic sports car. It's about as good as it gets for the drive that we've undertaken. You asked us to take you on a great drive, not too far out of Sydney, and that's exactly what we did. The run through the National Park and down into the South Coast is iconic as any great drive out of Sydney, but few are as easy or as close to the city as that drive is, and there's a lot to see. What I love most about the South Coast is the variety that's on offer. The drive is great. It doesn't matter if you don't have a Porsche 911, if you've got a regular sedan or hatchback, the roads are still the same, it's still as enjoyable. You don't need to let bad weather dampen your spirits, and there's so much variety down here, whether you've got kids or you don't have kids, it doesn't matter what you're into, you'll find something to occupy your time down here on the South Coast. Plenty of great accommodation and interesting places to eat as well. So it's a bit of a paradise for foodies, as much as it is for those of you who love a great drive. We've had a ball down here. We will be back again to check out some different experiences for another episode, but that is the end of this week's Great Drive, and we will see you again next week for another great drive. The Royal National Park starts south of Sydney, and we entered the park close to Sutherland. From there, it's an enjoyable early morning run down to the Audley Weir, Stanwell Tops, and finally the Seacliff Bridge. Pull in at Scarborough to check out the view, then pass through Austinmere and skirt around Wollongong on the way to Albion Park Rail and the Aviation Museum. If you own a sports car with the performance capability of the 911, it's important that you choose the right tyres. And for all your tyre needs, head to your local Bob Jane T-Marts, where they'll have tyres not just for Porsche 911s, but for every sports car on the market in Australia.
For more information on pricing and specifications, head to drive.com.au. Plus, get all the details for this drive by scanning the QR code on your screen or visiting us online.
Next week, I head west on the Gold Trail in Australia's next favourite four-wheel drive dual cab, the new giant-killing Ford Ranger Raptor. And don't worry, we'll head off-road as well.
Keen to see some of the roads we've already driven? Well, you can download the Roads by Porsche app and perhaps tackle them yourself.